Okay, we will call a meeting to order. It is September 15th, 2020. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Born and unborn.
Okay, and we will forego all of our reports and go right into discussion of ARPA funds.
Okay, well, I'll just kind of start out. I'll just give a little recap of where we were. Teresa, I'm there. She's there. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Debbie?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, good. 100 points for Brian. Well, Teresa, I'm just going to start off by just explaining how we got to where we are today. Basically, earlier this year, the County Commission announced that their plans to distribute approximately $15 million worth of ARPA funding to various county agencies and organizations. An advisory committee was selected back in January of this year to help the County Commission focus on the community needs, and with their help, they came up with a needs assessment that was put online and that people could apply to. We had over 28 projects totaling over $55 million, if you guys remember that. The County Commission, along with the committee and with Forbes, BKD, formally, developed an online application. The application process was over in July of this year, resulting in 52 applications with a total of $37 million worth of projects. Each of the county commissioners now carefully reviewed the applications, prioritized them, and set a preliminary award estimate for each of the projects on the priority list. The priority applications and project proposals were then sent to Forbes, the third party, or BKD, to determine whether they were allowable under the current federal guidelines. And that's what brings us here today to go over the ones that were unallowed under the $5 million umbrella and to understand the requirements under the $10 million umbrella. So I'm going to start with that and we'll see where we are. I know, Teresa, we have the list from you of the priority ones that we got back. Some were allowed and some were unallowed. And I'm just going to open it up for the commissioners if they have any questions about that or where we want to go from here.
Hey Debbie,
Yep.
citizens are asking, I'll ask, do we get a list of those folks? Can we get that list? Can we get it printed out?
For you today, yep. Yep.
It appears that
You mean to print extra?
many that were disallowed or have to do more with
A few more.
parks and sporting events, so sporting venues.
Okay, so as you can see, there's the names in that on the priority list right now. The ones in yellow at the top, sorry, Teresa, you don't have this, but are the internal ones, county here. Most of them have been allowed. We're still waiting on 2 of them. That is the stormwater project, if I'm not saying that right, forgive me, that we just sent back to Forbes for their review. And then the Pringer family, because it's a little bit premature on that project itself right yet.
I thought that the stormwater, there was some heartburn over the term flooding,
Right.
but has that been,
Eric changed the wording on it, and I just sent it back to Forbes this week,
okay.
or last week, I can't remember, but it's been really recent that I just sent the new one to them.
Okay.
Okay?
And then there were 2 issues on Pringer, maybe. One is that there's an incarceration, you might say, feature to there. And is that the question?
That is the question, plus we don't really have the architect's drawings.
Okay.
We don't have estimates of costs, we don't really have anything on that particularly that was able to send to them other than a paragraph of what we're doing, so.
All right.
I think that we're pretty close with Toby bringing to you guys the proposal. So, again, those are at the top there. Those were all basically approved. And then in the yellow down below that are all ones that were disallowed just on the priority list. And then the green is the ones that have been allowed. And again, on the second to last column is the estimated amount that the commissioners had come up with as far as the award amount goes. So I know there was questions about some of the ones that were unallowable under the 5. And so we can start there, and if you guys got any questions, or maybe Teresa, if you can just a snapshot of the 5 million versus the 10, if you could explain that to people here.
Sure, so that $10 million standard allowance threshold, and I want to introduce Kim Swain, she's on the phone as well. She's out in our Springfield office, I believe. Yeah, she's been helping me a ton in going through these reviews and things, so she's very intimately aware of each of these projects and has reviewed these as well. So the $10 million standard allowance threshold, that's the government services kind of threshold. So if it would be allowable, it would just need to be considered a government service that she would provide. So that's kind of the allowability threshold. The $5 million threshold has quite a few other restrictions, some COVID-related restrictions and things like that. So there's a higher threshold for what would be allowable under those dollars. So we've kind of gone through the guidance on each of these individual projects and looked at the guidance of that $5 million. When I say $5 million, that's specific to you guys. Anything above the $10 million standard allowance would be under this threshold that basically would have that higher threshold. And we've gone through and looked at the guidance to see if we could base specifically on the application and the wording within the application if they would be allowable on that harder guideline, on those harder guidance, I guess, on that respect. So, Debbie, I'm not sure if there's anything else as far as that goes. It's kind of just a quick overview of that, but.
Yeah, no, that's what we needed. I know again, the 5 million more restrictive guidelines before the federal government, and the 10 million is basically any kind of activity that the county government has done in the past, or so to say, kind of close to that. But there's a definition, and you shared with them the definition of that as far as the services provided by a government. So, do you guys have any questions as far as that goes, or questions?
I guess I just don't understand why some of it's not allowable, specifically this soccer complex and some of the stuff that falls directly under the tourism and hospitality industries.
Actually, we have statutory authority for economic development. Harry and I went over this the other day. So if some of those can be characterized as economic development.
Under the 10 million, but not under the 5 is what
Well,
Forbes is saying, that we can't do this under the 5 million.
we could actually,
Commissioner, I just want to be specific that it's exactly as their application is written is what we based our determination on. Now, there might be additional information they could provide that could get it to an allowable state, but it's based on the application provided. That is the determination. And we tried to give some notes out to the side why it wasn't allowable.
So on the big spreadsheet that you got, that I forwarded you from Forbes had that.
The big
Sorry,
spreadsheet,
that
we got
big
12 of
spreadsheet.
them.
Yeah, well, the latest one has them all on. But if
You can't
go
print it
over-
out because it's,
No, you just gotta print out the columns you wanna see. You gotta hide the other ones.
oh, we'll just do a lot of.
That's
scrolling
why I
on the
condensed
computer.
it to this. So in a nutshell, I mean, can you explain, let's just say the soccer field one, as far as how you felt the application did not apply under the 5 million.
Kim, can I throw that over to you?
Yes. Whenever we review that, there's specific wording in the Treasury guidance that says projects specifically for economic development purpose, or, I think the exact wording is, large capital expenditures intended for general economic development to aid in the travel are unallowable. So that is specifically outlined as an unallowable expense in the Treasury guidance. And like Teresa was saying, there was a lot of these that could be allowable if the justification for them was tweaked a little bit. And if that's something you guys would like to look at to get it allowable, we'd be glad to have that discussion with you, but as it was written, it's not allowable.
So what was the first part, to aid in the travel?
And so that was specifically not allowed allow for travel for economic development, is that what I heard you say?
The exact wording is large capital expenditures for general economic development or to aid the travel or tourism industries are not allowable.
The travel.
Okay,
I think,
she found that in that 450-page document.
talking with Diane Gillespie, I think they've got like 3 tournaments already scheduled for next fall if we get this off the ground, so, but
So again, and like they did say, I
So
forgot to
travel
say
and
that at the beginning, it
tourism.
was definitely based on the applications that we sent them.
So that would be the same reason that Jeff City's request for money for MSP was unallowable too, because convention center technically.
And I'll throw that one back to you. It was the Jeff City, Missouri State Penitentiary. Can you elaborate on that one as far as the not being allowed?
Okay, on that one, it says Treasury,
Okay, I think I might have just found where that's at.
general infrastructure project, I can't find that one specifically. Hold on. Okay, that was based on the justification also. That was one that I did have noted that based on the justification that could be allowable. But the way it was written, roads are not allowable under the Treasury guidance. So roads are an ineligible expense.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that
I
is
just found
specifically
it.
stated on
Thanks.
page 215.
I thought we had the roads already taken care of out of.
Well, we're putting $1 million in out of cooperative projects.
It was
Yeah, I
based
thought-
on-
The MSP.
Yeah, we have, that was our, that's,
I was
on
just
their
looking at the reason
application.
why it wasn't allowed or unallowable, and I found it on here now, so.
On their actual application is what they base their decision on, and so they mentioned the road.
oh, okay.
And that one is one that could be covered under your standard allowance, the $10 million pot. It's just not under the $5 million direct ARPA.
And to give you an idea, the 10 million, the part in yellow at the top and the things at the bottom that we've already encumbered, premium pay, the sheriff's communication, those things, they total up to about 10 million at this point. Now, the ones that are waiting, those I'm not sure if they are going to come through at that dollar amount. And obviously, those are the big dollar amounts. The 6.5 and the 1.2. I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't know all of that, but premium pay and sheriff's equipment, communications equipment, those are all allowable direct ARPA expenses. So you could cover that out of the 5 million ARPA and then use the standard allowance for the more flexible projects you're wanting to do. So that would be another option for you.
Some of the ones we've already reported on, so the ones I've reported on, I would hate to move now from one category to another. I guess it can't be done, but I don't know. So you guys would have to help me through that as far as that goes.
We would be glad to.
Okay.
So let me maybe re-ask the question. If do you report quarterly, monthly? What do you do?
Quarterly.
Quarterly reports have gone in with dollar amounts under certain columns. Those can be amended. Is that what I hear you saying, to move them to the other column?
There's not a whole lot of reports reporting that has to be done. It's a lump sum on the 10 million versus the other ones have to be specifically in the pot. That's the way I've been doing it. I know everybody's, sometimes that
Okay.
reporting module has been a challenge for a lot of entities, I think. So, she's laughing at me.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
putting it very nicely.
Just had a question. You're saying 10 million and 5 million. Is that the cost of the projects, or is that the amount of requests, or what, clarification on what that is? I'm not understanding.
That's
Sorry.
2 different pockets the county has to place these projects in.
And we're rounding a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's really about, the county has received approximately 14.8, .9?
Yeah, so-
14.9 million total dollars.
So
But when
it's
it-
just how we.
When it
divide
arrives here, it's almost like putting it in 2 different buckets, and
Okay.
something comes out of one bucket and something comes out of the other.
Yes.
Some things cannot come out of one of those buckets.
Thank you.
How much total do we have that's allowed under the 5 million bucket? Do you have that total?
I have, but really nothing approved under there yet. Premium pay I did set aside differently just because it had its own column within the ARPA reporting. So I did put that separately, but all the rest of them, there is really none out of the 5 million at this point. But I was trying to get to the total of the 15. I do have another spreadsheet on the budget, which I probably haven't sent to you in a while, but I will send that to you. Not much has changed, other than you guys did purchase those radios the other day for the different departments, the ones that are in yellow up the top.
Yellow or pink? This is one, well, when did you send this one?
Well-
This one you just sent the other day.
I mean, look at the one I sent you yesterday, right?
Mhm.
The best.
That's the one I got, and it doesn't
Oh,
have
here.
yellow.
Here, look at this. So, I guess I'm just looking for guidance as to, we are currently still working on the recipient, sub-recipient agreement, and we've given you guys language for the contract that we kind of need in there too. And I know we just gave another one yesterday. So we're working on another draft copy of that for you guys. So when you're ready to send award letters out, denial letters out, and again, this is the priority list group, so there are other ones applications that came that are not on priority list here. We do have a lot of, obviously, inquiries of where their application stands.
Say again the status of the sub-recipient agreement, pledge, whatever.
Yep, we have a draft copy,
Okay.
and I sent that to you guys, and we've had some revisions that we'd like to add to that Jill came up with some, Jessica come up with some that are currently in most of our contracts. There is one big thing in there I'd like to talk about, though, because it leaves the door open to reimbursables and to be paid funds outright. I don't know if that's just both languages that you guys have put in there, or I know we kind of wanted to stay as a reimbursable, so I don't know if we need to take that language completely out, because it's just, one way or the other. I would rather stay a reimbursable type.
There may be some organizations that don't have the money to spend and then ask for reimbursement. They may not have the cash flow to do it.
I understand. CARES, it was all reimbursable.
Okay.
So it made our bookkeeping, our keeping track of making sure the entities do what they're supposed to do, making sure we have all the documentation, puts a responsibility on the subrecipient more than the county, which it should be, because they're the
But if they
ones-
got us a PO or something, we could pay direct. Or some way to work around special circumstances.
Yeah, we could pay their, yes, we did that too. In CARES, we paid the vendor directly on some entities.
Yeah.
Can I
I
ask
don't know
a
if that would
question
work.
while they're here?
Sure.
So the difference between an allowable here, Boys and Girls Club, Jefferson City, and not allowable, the Salvation Army of Jefferson City, how did you how did you separate those two entities?
Well, maybe you can just address why the Salvation Army project application was not allowed.
Working on finding that on my list. Do you know if that was in the first or the second round of requests?
It may have been in the first
Yeah, it
one.
says capital expenditures should be related and reasonably proportional
Okay.
response to a public health or negative economic impact of the pandemic must satisfy the requirements for all uses under the public health and negative impact eligible use category, including identifying an impact or harm and designing a response that addresses or responds to the identified impact or harm. That was page 192, and then page 200. Construction of new congregate facilities, which would generally be expected to involve expenditures greater than 1 million, would generally not be a proportional response to mitigate or prevent COVID-19. Because such construction is generally expected to be more costly than alternative approaches or capital expenditures that may equally or more effective in decreasing spread of the disease. 252, not sure what that number means. These alternatives include personal protective equipment, ventilation improvements, utilizing excess capacity in other facilities or wings, or temporary facility capacity expansion. So I'm not sure. It might be just the way that one's written too, or not.
I would say that would be an accurate statement. The way it was written, there would only be 4 new rooms from my understanding, and the rest of it was just general upgrades, new flooring, new paint. And there was no real explanation of how that stuff tied to COVID. And the justification is that the response has to be proportional to the COVID response. So 3.5 million for a whole total renovation didn't deem a proportional response to 4 new beds. The way it was written.
So if we want to address the unallowable ones first and get them off the table, so we send them a letter telling them, here's the reason why it's deemed unallowable
Okay.
under the 5 million. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
And then how do they come in and, like Public Works did with the stormwater project,
You
change
can-
some wording and stuff? So would they be able to call 4 of us?
I prefer, I don't know if you guys have run into this with any other entities, if you're going to send them a letter, and if that's what you guys want to do, that based on the application we received, these have been unallowed for that specific reason. Do you need, or do you want to change your application in any way? If so, we need it back in 30 days, or something like that.
Or if you want to quote appeal or
Yeah.
whatever, yes, I think that's, but I have a hesitancy to have an applicant visit with our vendor.
Right, no.
It's got to come through us.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Okay.
I would say so too.
But then we could get more specifics for them.
More than what they've outlined in there, or,
Maybe a critique from them.
and that's kind of what that was, a
Okay.
critique. I mean, why they felt, what page on the final ruling that they decided. But I can run that through you guys too and talk to you guys about them, so I can at least make sure I'm wording it right back to them. So if that's what the pleasure of the commission is, I can get started on all of those.
That's like
ones that were
7,
unallowed.
it's like 7 that were unallowed, so,
And the one that did have an X, I'm sorry, I only had 1 commissioner with that, so I probably messed that up. Probably shouldn't even have sent that
Oh,
one,
okay.
so.
okay.
But I can send to all 7 if you'd like.
I'm still jumping between papers,
Sorry.
trying to keep up here. So, even the, I don't know, the ones with only one of us want to put money towards,
Right. All right,
might
sure.
as well take that one off the list, I'd say, for now.
Yeah.
We can address it if we have
Okay.
something later on.
So So I'll send the 6 letters out to those that were unallowable, basically stating why they were unallowable and then asking them to respond or if they would like an appeal to
Yeah,
them.
I don't think the MSP one's gonna fly anyway. And there's a few other ones that are on there that they might be able to reword.
Well, MSP, it's, somehow the fire tower at Hyde Park, they had filled out a needs assessment for that, but then they did not fill out an application for this, so,
I did send them their needs assessment as the application and they
Yeah.
were allowable.
yeah, and
It's the last one on the list there.
from the input that I've received from city council people and, you know, other people with the city, it seems like the fire tower is more of a need than, so,
Well, I don't mind if we're giving it to the other incorporated towns, cities, villages, if we're going to invest some in Jefferson City as well. I think the fire tower, a training tower, which is used by all of the fire departments, districts in Cole County. So it would definitely benefit everyone. And I mean, I don't have a problem going that route with it. So, but the MSP one, I don't think that one's gonna come back up. But how much money do we have total on allowable then? Because we've got
Basically
5 million.
600,000.
How much?
600,000. That,
Oh, I got more
of the
than that.
estimated allowance amount, not what they've requested, just in the preliminary award that you guys had come up
Well,
with.
we got $1 million just for the Lincoln Science Center, Health Sciences and Crisis Center.
That was allowable.
I know. That's what I'm asking, how much total is allowable?
11 million.
So we got
11
plenty to
million
go
for-
through that 5 million. We can buzz all through that 5 million.
Oh, I'm sorry, of that 11,000, yes, some of those in the yellow are the counties. So if you just want from 300,000 down to the other 300,000. If you're ready to, once the subrecipient letter is ready to go, if you're ready today to award any of these other ones that are allowable, we'll be ready to send them a letter. If you want to go through the ones on the bottom that are considered allowable, if you're ready to do that, we can move forward with those.
I'm ready to
Today?
do something.
I would like, yeah, I'd like to move ahead.
Yeah. All
With
of
those
them-
that we have no problem with, I would say let's do it.
And really, the subrecipient would tell them the amount and tell them all the qualifications they have to abide by in order to make, to sign the agreement. I'd like to put a stipulation that the subrecipient, because of our time constraint, that has to be back in within 30 days or so. I don't know what, I gotta reload.
An acceptance of the award. Is that right, Debbie?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Teresa, are you still there? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Question, so just because they've asked for that amount, does that mean you all are approving today that particular amount? or-
No.
No,
The-
but the amount they requested is the first column, and the preliminary amount that the commission has tentatively agreed on is in the second last column for the ones that are awarded. So again, if we sent out the subrecipient to all of these people that have been allowable, and that project, they asked for 200,000, yet you guys have put 50,000. If that's not acceptable to them, that they can't come up with the other part of it, then they would probably not sign the contract and send it back.
Yeah, some of this will come back to us because some need that whole amount
Right,
to make the project happen.
right. And then we can address each one of those. Some may have gotten other funding. We've removed one person from the list and put it down because they received their
Yeah.
funding through another source. And I understand that maybe the state is putting out theirs mid-October. of what they're awarding to some projects. I know they've already done some, but I hear that some of the towns and stuff are waiting till October.
Say, with partial funding, which in our case is partially requested anyway, we're gonna be encumbered by the restrictions altogether for the whole $16 million project, even though 50,000 is gonna be all that would be awarded on this suggestion here. So we would fall under that for the whole project, or have to forfeit it if something was different. Would that be the case, or how would that work in partially funded projects?
I would just think a letter back from the entity saying, thanks for the offer, but with that amount, we would not be able to fulfill our part.
No, that really wasn't the question, was it?
No.
Here,
If,
let me
say,
let me-
there's more funds in the project than what is just being through this
Right.
this grant. If we're contingent to the whole restrictions for the whole project, or else we have to forfeit that portion.
I don't think that we can hold you responsible how you spend the rest of the money. We can only hold you responsible for how much of the money came from the county that you properly expended. So you may get tricky because you can't use the same dollar twice. In other words, you can't send us a letter saying thank you for 50 grand. We spend it according to the rules, and then send another letter to another donor claiming the same 50 being spent. You can't use it twice.
And that's why becoming a reimbursable type thing would be very
Right.
helpful here.
That's true, yeah. So if you had a vendor billing or a contractor billing and it fit there, perhaps that's the way to do it.
Like I said, helpful on spending it for that, but you know where it's all earmarked to go.
Right.
In the future.
So, but Debbie, back to, we don't have that sub-recipient agreement yet
Right.
to send, right?
Right.
Okay.
It should be shortly, I would think, unless there's any other snafus in it. But even, I'm just gonna pick on one, even like a project like Lincoln University. You guys decide on an amount. That project is a $15 million project.
It's a 40.
40, sorry, $40 million project.
It's a 40 now that that may be one of the more interesting ones. They can spend 40 if they raise 20. If they raise 20, the state matches the 20. So.
And with the amount of money that you guys have estimated or earmarked for that, I would say, okay, maybe we can do the infrastructure, or, what, we can do part of that project. We wouldn't be involved in the whole $20 million project or $40 million project.
Right.
And I would then run that through BKD Forbes to make sure that that's okay, because we don't really have a stake in the whole project.
And
so to
it's
say.
got a long, it's not going to be spent next week, next month, next year. It may be bumping up against the 12/31/26 final due date, right? Which may be extended, who knows?
Yeah. So each one of these entities are going to be handled a little bit differently, depending on how this all works out, in my mind. And I'm sure their mind too.
So starting with Boys and Girls Club of 300.
Yes.
And going down to City of Jefferson Fire Tower 300.
Mhm.
That group adds to how much?
We can do that.
Excuse me, can you give me a copy of that, please?
That total 11 million is everything above it?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you subtract those one? Okay,
Yeah, I
or do you
don't-
have it open?
I don't have the Excel spreadsheet on that, I don't think, but so, that number of 15 million that you was trying to get to, though, that includes 6.5 million for the Pringer Family Center.
Right.
I'm not sure I want that much going on that one.
Agreed.
All the other ones we moved ahead, well, even the 1.2 on the
It's about
stormwater.
3 million, or a little bit less than.
Yeah, because I'm about 2.3, yeah, it's about 3 million.
Okay.
So do you want to award like the Boys and Girls Club, Lincoln University, Special Learning Center,
I'm okay with all the numbers in the, well, mine, you got the colored code, okay, well, this one, the green one, that,
Yeah.
the bottom section of it.
You're okay with us basically sending them a subrecipient agreement and seeing if that's,
I'd like to get moving on it, because if they can't use it, then we put it back in
Yeah,
the
because I
pot.
think there
We
are
got
gonna
other
be
people that
some
can.
who, if they don't get the total amount, are probably not gonna be able to move ahead. So if that money comes back,
right.
uh,
That will at least give us an idea if, again, what they asked for versus what you've come up with in the budget amount may change their, and they may say they have to wait 2 or 3 months before they will know that answer too, if they're waiting on other sources of ARPA money to come through for them as an entity. I think you had a question, I don't.
I was just wondering if you're gonna send out, down at the bottom here, you say these all already total the 15 million. If you send the blue ones back new letters asking them to reapply, where's that money gonna come from?
There is a contingency.
The top yellow stuff is not,
No.
that's not been promised yet.
Yeah, the 6.5 and the 1.2. Plus, we have about a 770,000, that second last line of a contingency. That would cover all of those that were unallowable first.
So I'd like to take the totals out of, that are up on the top, that we haven't already
Okay.
agreed to go with. Do you have your, you don't have that file open, do you?
Not with them here, no. I can't do all that with them here. I can, yeah, so you're 7.7 million off of that if you went, for the 1.2 and the 6.5. That does change the picture quite a bit. If those don't happen or you have a lesser amount in those, so. But again, that was all getting to the 10 million. And then the 5 million was what you were gonna do outside of the county, so, yes, that can change.
I'm really okay with the ones in blue, except for the MSP infrastructure one, which, if we could do that under economic development or however. I know you got the one with the X on it, so we can take that one off too at this time, unless somebody changes their mind.
So do I hear a reason to send it to the infrastructure one or not? A letter basically asking them if they want to protest that.
That depends. If we're gonna not do it under the 5 million, we don't have to worry about if it's allowable or unallowable. If we're gonna do it under the 10 million.
Well, definitely this is the unallowable under the 5 million.
Okay, so the soccer complex, that's #1 priority for me, #2 priority, and up there at the top anyway. We're talking specifically about it, I'd like to see it come out of the 10 million if it's not allowed in the 5 million under economic development. And we can work on down the list if we want to, see if it is.
Well, just sticking with that one then, do you feel like it fits under the definition of services traditionally provided by government? That would be what is under the 10 million umbrella.
Economic development.
So if we would move that up into the 10 million, then does it, travel and tourism that's not allowed, does that kind of, we don't have that as an, yeah, okay, then.
I don't know if that was a question for us or not, but I'm gonna chime in, but yes, that's exactly how that would work. If it's under that $10 million standard allowance, it wouldn't have to fit into the ARPA requirements, it would just have to fit into a general county operation requirement.
Okay.
I'm fine with what you just said there, Jeff. And you have you're planning on a trip to the Capitol next week? Are they? Over
To
there?
the
Is it?
office building, governor's office building, or what was that?
The
Oh, I'm sorry,
10:30s.
over to the
Yeah,
governor's.
Office
For their
building,
presentation.
room
But
1010.
they're going to be making their presentation for some grant money. And it would be helpful if you were there supporting that and showing our input?
Yeah.
Okay. So-
Yeah, I'd like to go 1 million on it, but I didn't get y'all enough coffee or anything, get y'all off your number, so.
All right.
So I think we'll take what we can get right now, and if we have some left at the end and we want to revisit it. Even the Russellville City Park Improvements Project, I mean, that just seems like that would fall underneath of exactly what some of this money is for, is giving you outside areas for people to, I guess, social distance and do stuff. But then again, the wording of the application is maybe what just holds that up. I don't know if we want to make them go through the exercise of redoing it.
Or just move
rebutting
it, or just move it into the 10 million.
We have enough flexibility to move it to the $10 million line, don't we? And-
I think so. We
I
do
think
stuff
so,
with parks,
yeah.
with public works all the time, so that's where I would see that falling under.
Again, if you guys could, so what is the definition again for the 10 million? You said under government services or something you said? Sorry, I'll put you on the spot.
Teresa, if you find that before I do, feel free to chime in. I've got to go through my email. And I have that pulled out.
Yeah, you just want to give me the exact language. I know it says a government service.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be specific, something that you've done previously, if you take that of government service literally now. There is some, I'm sure some lawyers out there that talk back and forth about it and exactly what that means, but I think Forbes is taking the position that of government service means a government service, so any government
All right.
service.
So Russellville City Council would be a government service.
Well, they're talking about us
Oh.
as a government service, being under our 10 million.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
So,
still,
just because it's not normal for our government, it could be another county, it could be another city, that it's a government service type thing, so, okay. So are you guys saying that you would like to take this 600,000 and put it under the umbrella of the 10 million? Or do you still want to send them letters of any sort?
Is your 600, is that the stuff in blue, the middle?
Yes.
Okay, 600,000. I'd minus the 100,000 for the MSP. I'm just one though,
I'm good with that.
so.
I'm good with that as well.
And then you're good with the remaining 500,000 just coming under the umbrella as government services, under the 10 million?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, because
okay.
if we can do more with it without having to redo all that, it'd
Okay.
be a lot easier.
So then at this point, then, moving that there, you guys still obviously waiting on the juvenile and the road and bridge part of it. We will get the subrecipient letter done. We will get it out to all of the entities you see there on your priority list, giving them the amount that you're allowing. And then, I mean, is it prudent to give them 30 days, or how long would you like to give them to get that subrecipient agreement back to us? Because I really don't want to be sitting on it and when.
7 days?
Oh, no, I don't think that's, that's not.
Okay, 30.
Well,
Want the money,
well,
but they are still waiting on
Tell you what,
other.
if we end up getting funded when all this money comes back, you'll have it back that day.
Well.
But some of them are not getting funded the whole amount.
But some city
So that's what I
councils
am.
might not meet.
Yeah, as I was kind of kidding. I just want to keep it moving. If 30 days is not enough,
I think 30 days is reasonable.
That's what we did with the CARES, correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, was 30 days that you had to have it back by. So, again, I will send you the final draft once we get that out to everybody again, before we even dream about sending it out to any of the
And if-
applicants.
If for some reason they can't, we can be lenient if they have a good,
So the,
reason why they can't.
on the fire tower, where'd that 300,000 come from? Was that what the ask was?
No, it was $1.9 million original. Well, in the
Well,
assessment, in the,
Okay, was that I didn't have that on any of the list besides the needs assessment thing, so that's, I was
Yeah.
just wondering where our budgeted number came from.
Well, I can tell you, I met with the chief, and he said to me that $1.9 million was to build a Taj Mahal fire tower, and they don't need a Taj Mahal. Since then, the
I think
city,
that's kind of a middle one, wasn't it? 'Cause I think it's
Well,
like 3.8 for the the
maybe.
commissioner's tower.
It went, then I met with Chief Schofield and it went up to $500,000. Then you met with Chief Schofield last, and I think it was up over 2 million,
The price
right?
was 1.9 or
Yeah,
2.1
so,
or something.
so
It's
it's,
right there, 1.925.
the city, when their ARPA request, originally it was 1.9, then they took it down to 1.6, and then the city granted them 1 million of the ARPA money. So,
Are you okay with the 3, or would you guys like to not put that one
Yeah,
out
I
there
actually
yet?
talked to Chief Schofield about it too, and another fire district chief, and said, you know, if they wanted to come to us and request some of the money on their behalf, so they actually have a buy-in to the fire tower too, so the county districts. I mean, if something needs to be done, I think it's been sitting there unused now for 2 years, did he say?
yeah, it was built in 93,
So,
and so they dedicated it in 94 after the flood.
I don't think it's just the fire departments that use it either. I think they use it for law enforcement training and
They do.
a lot of different stuff. So it's got a lot of use, and I think it would be a great investment in the community and serve the whole community. I'd be okay even going more, but, you know, we can wait and see what we have left, or we can talk to the other fire districts too and see if that's kind of what they want as their buy-in, because from what I understand, the county fire districts don't pay towards it.
I think they make it available to the fire districts, and the chief told me, as I recall, that it could bring a fire school back to Jefferson City if they had a operating tower.
Yeah, mentioned something about Lincoln possibly doing that in the future
Yeah.
too, so.
And are we taking that out of, well, no, I was gonna say that travel and tourism not allowed keeps throwing me off, but this,
Or the other-
if it did that, it would be kind of,
Okay, well then, basically on the priority list, all we're waiting for is the Pringer and the stormwater. And then we're working on the subrecipient. We'll get that out to everybody that is on this list, basically, except for the penitentiary infrastructure one. And these dollar amounts that you see here is where it will go out to them. We'll wait the 30 days, see if we get a response back. And then I hesitate to send other entities denial or thanks for your project, but until we know where we sit with the funding as far as this goes. Again, these are your priority list. There is a list of other ones still out there. I mean, it's totally up to you whether you want to send the other ones thank you, but we don't feel like they fit.
I wouldn't do that yet.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that
They're
yet.
not priority one.
No,
But
but
do you have emails for them all, so you could send them just a short generic email saying, here's where we are, we're submitting some of them, and we're waiting for some responses, but they've not been awarded anything yet? Something to
That's
that
fine.
effect? Because I know people are asking about it.
Other than they're not on priority one list, is about all I could say at this point, to see if that makes sense. I don't know what else you would want me
I would just do these ones that,
that are on the list, or?
well, the ones that today I think, the ones where we're all in agreement.
Well, that definitely will go
Yeah,
out with a
yeah,
subrecipient.
yeah.
I meant the other ones that did make priority A list. I will send
They
them a
can
short
still be
email saying-
considered, so
yeah.
I don't know if we really need to send.
So there's 20 of them thereabouts that aren't on this list,
Yeah.
that probably should get some kind of letter as well, saying right now, they're not being awarded any money.
I will draft something up and let you guys see it before I send it out. How's that? Okay.
Is that nonprofits and things like that?
A little bit of everything on there. yeah.
Okay, and I have a question about waiting in the Pringer Family Center. Why would there be such a large sum for that particular?
Their project is an add-on to the building, maybe even a new building. They haven't got it all through the architects yet to space out
But
kids.
why would everybody else be so low compared to them?
That's a decision for the
Because
commission.
it's our money.
Because
Because it's our money.
Because it's their decision.
When it was
Well-
built, was it built
It-
in the nineties?
93 or 90? yeah.
93.
Yeah.
the,
Well, I understand.
I was here, we were here the day.
I'm just
I heard the
looking
presentation.
yeah.
At the preference here, 6 million compared to taking off others, how does that make them more effective in the community?
That's what I'm thinking. What citizens really benefit from the Prayer Center?
Every family that has a resident there, and every one of those families have neighbors, they have relatives. We have to provide, and on top of, the state in their infinite wisdom decided now that 18-year-olds belong there instead of in an adult facility. I'm sorry, 17-year-olds.
Close to being.
They upped the age. It's called up the age. So now and that upped the age of 1 year, and there were 16 years before. That doesn't mean we grew by 1/16, because that 1 year is a big year.
So the
And
county is responsible for that building no matter what?
yes,
Okay.
right.
And we have
So that's
14-year-olds
Oh, yeah,
with
it's-
guns who are shooting people.
Oh, I work
Yeah.
at that risk, I
Yeah,
understand.
we-
what goes on.
We're required,
So it's your job anyway to pay for it as our county?
it's
Okay.
the county taxpayer's job to, if we don't do it with ARPA money, we're looking at a big capital improvement in the near future. And actually, maybe this is good timing that we have this
I get it
opportunity.
now.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you bet.
So I think I got the gist. I'll let you guys know before I do it as far as the letters and subrecipient agreement and while all the projects that you guys have gotten in the applications, they're all worthwhile, beneficial to county residents in one way or another. Unfortunately, it's simply not enough money available to support all the applicants and the dollar amount that they have. Again, we received over $37 million worth of requests. The next step in the process is what I just said. We're going to draft the subrecipient agreement, send it out to the ones that you've approved with the dollar amount that you approved. I'll prepare an email to the ones that are not on the priority list, okay? And then, Teresa, is there really anything else other than the bookkeeping of all of that once those subrecipients come in and making sure they have the documentation of all their federal ID numbers and everything else that's required? So,
Correct, yeah, yeah.
While we have
Good plan, Debbie.
While we have Farvis on the line, I don't want him to already spend that $611,000 that's next to their name, because I really don't think we're going to get anywhere close to that. That was a engagement letter range, and maybe based upon the experience of the CARES money in some respects. So I
I'll
don't.
say I can't do it without them, that's for sure.
Well, no,
No,
there's no
no.
question about that, and their help was enormous with respect to that needs assessment letter, and then on this subrecipient letter. Oh, yes, they're worth what we pay them. I don't think they'll be paid $611 at the end of the day, because some of this money's gonna go out in a big chunk, and so
No, we really haven't talked to you
I
that
just
much.
didn't-
I don't see any chiefs
I didn't
pennants
want.
or anything up.
I didn't want Teresa's bonus to be based, she's already got it spent, that's what I'm saying.
He's
So
got
at the
to
top of that list, Debbie, we got two of them that we're waiting on, and those are some big money
spend. Yes,
numbers there, 7.7 million.
yes.
The other ones we've spent, the ones that are allowable, we've already said, let's go ahead and go with it,
The
right?
only one that's questionable is still the voting machines. That is out to bid right now. And again, I should have mentioned that in that one, that request changed to not just the handicap, it changed to all the voting machines. So that amount would be different then if you did all of them. But we are bidding it to where it could be 1, 2, or 3 parts of the,
It's gonna be more than that.
okay, more than that options for you guys to decide.
Okay. Just because those are the big numbers in there for the other two.
Yes,
Just make it look like we've gone through it quickly, but today we've invested 3.5 million. That's kind of what we gave the okays
Yeah.
for today.
and another 600 on the other side, yes.
Mhm.
Yep,
So,
that's true.
when you take that 7.7 million out of the top, then we've still got something to play with it.
And I will
Depend on
send you
where they
that
go.
spreadsheet that shows what you basically encumbered out of the total 15, once I get out of here today.
Okay, you only get 4 rows though, because I have to keep it on one page.
Well, that will not be
Yeah,
possible
I
with the
know.
budget.
I know that was.
That would not be possible.
Well, and really, if we do have some left over, this was Jeff's idea, but sooner than later, we're going to have to take down the old jail and build an addition to the courts. Because we're looking at spaces to rent and things like that. And we've got a fair amount in GR that we haven't spent because of COVID. And with some of this left over, we could
In capital improvement.
apply,
right?
apply that to that and possibly, get it done now. And even if we do like what they did when the courthouse burned in 1918, when they rebuilt it, they left the top 2 floors just shelf space. Because they've $43,000 to rebuild that after the fire. But we've got to do something. So,
All right.
if we have, I like that was your idea, Jeff. I thought Councilman
It's been sitting there for a
Helsher.
while.
Do you guys have any other
Commissioner
questions or
Helsher.
is there anything? Or-
I think we're good.
All right, ladies, I thank
We
you
got
very
3
much.
more minutes. We're getting billed for a full hour here. We got 3 more minutes.
So you're gonna watch the Chiefs tonight?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Wearing red.
Well, they got baseball.
Well, I didn't
Something
see
tonight.
it.
I know your camera view is.
Cleveland
We're-
Chiefs,
we're
is that
right
who it is?
there. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it.
Hey, we got something done.
We did.
I feel
We
good.
did, yeah.
We did. Now let's get this out, and the award letter will come at the same time with the subrecipient. So I'm sure I didn't talk to them about that, but it makes sense.
Is the list available
Hmm.
for other entities that are applying?
Let me take my copy of that.
The ones that didn't,
Yeah, can you get?
yeah. Did you not?
Commissioner.
Did everybody have that at the beginning? Not
Okay.
today.
So when do they think, I didn't think to ask them, but when do they think they'll know something on the Pringer Center and then the
Well, I think,
stormwater?
I think the Pranger Center, we're just waiting on Toby to come to you guys first, so I have something to actually present to them.
I sat in on a meeting at Architects Alliance about 2 weeks ago, and they had their first pass at it. And can't remember exactly how we left that, but the architects were going to take some of the info that was given to them and come back and get a better number.
Yeah, it's not gonna get any cheaper.
The consideration at that time was to take it down and start over, or use what you have and fix it. And to start over would be a couple $1 million more,
Oh,
was the rough and dirty estimate. So not going to do that, but some needed improvements and changes. The incarceration side would be expanded and modernized. It's almost like a MSP kind of cell.
So if we do that though, we can't use ARPA money for the detention part of it, from what I understand.
That could be the case, but
But we
The
could take
sheriff-
that out of capital and take a portion out of this.
Sheriff
Correct.
seems to think that maybe we could, but
it's been highly debated, not
Yeah,
just
I don't-
here,
I don't
nationally.
know. But I know when I first came in, I went and toured all of our buildings, and those were
I
the
thought you
worst
spent some time there as
bathrooms.
a Ute.
No, those were the worst bathrooms
As a
I've
Ute.
ever seen.
A
Chri-
Ute.
Christie was trying to get the bathrooms at the other health department fixed, and I said, they're not near as bad as Pringer's. But I think the floors there at Pringer are shot too, so even if we just,
I know Sheila
It's
read more
bad.
about that with
It's
the
bad.
detention part of it, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we have buildings that are in the city that are vacant, that are not being used, like i.e. Simonson Center. Had you all ever thought about using those facilities and, you know, using those facilities?
Simonson's are gonna be,
Well, Simonson is privately owned at this point.
Lofts,
Not just Simonson, come on, guys. I mean, we've got lots of other facilities that are government-owned that are sitting there that are not being used. And you want me to come up with the total of number of buildings that are there and how much money, revenue we have in real estate?
No, but I'm going to tell you that, but a juvenile center is so specific
Kind of
that,
like a hospital, it has to be at a certain grade that it has to be
right,
built to.
the mall sat empty, and somebody told me, hey, it's a great place for a high school. Oh, really? How many doors you got going into that high school? You know, it on the surface, it sounds like, hey, that's a great idea.
Simonson only had 3 exits.
Joplin used
Yeah.
one of their malls.
But it's 100 years old.
For the
Or, no, it's
school after
been
the
school there
fire.
for 100 years. We toured the Adair County juvenile facility, and it is really nice, and it makes ours look like a hut.
It's old.
Does it take a motion to stand in recess here, or what is it?
Yes,
Yep.
till next Tuesday.
Wait a minute, we're not in recess till next Tuesday.
Stay in recess till next Tuesday.
Well,
Then we at 4:30.
Yes,
and then-
today.
Yes.
Motion to stand in recess until 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you on the 20th.
Hang on, I'm printing it, so. You want, like, what I did, or?